Good evening, everybody. I would like to call the regular council meeting for Monday, August 10th to order. We do have regrets tonight from Councillor Brad Allard. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, and of the Huron-Wendat peoples. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and of all the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. If you are able, please stand for our national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command.
Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits.
God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
I'll go to Director Malandrucolo for a closed meeting report for July 20th.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you, council met at 4 p.m. on July 20th pursuant to section 239 to E, F, I, J, and K of the Municipal Act 2001 to discuss a town contract. Council also met at 5 p.m. on July 20th pursuant to section 239 to I and J of the Municipal Act 2001 to discuss financial information. And that is the extent of my two reports.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Malandrucolo. Any declarations of conflicts of interest from members of council this evening? Okay. Seeing none, looking for a mover and a seconder that we adopt the closed meeting minutes held July 20th at 4 o'clock. Moved by Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor Mady. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried unanimously. Looking for a mover and a seconder that we adopt the closed meeting minutes for July 20th, the 5 o'clock meeting. Moved by Councillor Mady, supported by Councillor McGuire-Blaise. I just want to, for those that are just joining us, our administration, we do have the closed meeting minutes are new this term for the sake of transparency. We decided to have minutes now for our closed meetings. All in favor? That's carried. Looking for a mover and a seconder that we adopt the regular council meeting for August 10th. And we do have an amendment to move up report 10.3 to 10.1 so that we will be dealing with that report first. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Mady, any questions? All in favor? That's carried. So moving on to the minutes for July 20th. Looking for a mover and a seconder that these be adopted as presented. Councillor McGuire-Blaise, Deputy Mayor Shepley, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Moving on to our public presentations this evening, we do have representatives from the Pili Coastal Committee. We have Peter Zizik, and I'm not sure if we have Mr. Tim Burney. I think he might be here as well. And we have Rebecca Belanger, the Manager of Planning from the County of Essex, and I'd like to welcome all of you. I'm not sure who is going to take the lead first.
It'll be myself, Sherry. All right, well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to present to the council today myself, Rebecca Belanger, and Tim Burney here with me. And what we want to speak to you about are some aspects of the PLE Coastal Resilience Committee and work that we're advancing, and focusing more on the obviously the projects that are relevant to the town of Essex and your neighbors. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about the geography. First of all, this is a big study area. It stretches from the mouth of the Detroit River all the way through town of Essex, Kingsville, Leamington, around the tip of Point Pelee National Park up to Port Elmas. So we have two very large sections of Lake Erie coast that are sediment cells or littoral cells that converge on the tip of the national park. And this is the first time ever in Canada that we are developing a management plan and a strategy to deal with some of the challenges that we're facing here along the lake at the scale of these two sediment cells or littoral cells. So that's something that's quite unique. And the other thing I want to just share quickly with everyone that are not as familiar with the project, what we mean by resilience. And we're focused on coastal resilience to storms and natural hazards. And it's our goal to build up our ability to bounce back from these damaging events. We cannot make the storm stop. We can't make the flooding go away, but we can build resilient communities that can recover quickly from damaging events and get back to business as usual. And that's really a big part of our goals and efforts on this project. Next, please. So just a little bit more background here before we get to some of the projects. And I think one of the things I want to really highlight is all of our partners. We have an excellent group of people, associations. We have landowner groups, First Nation, businesses and Chamber of Commerce on our committee, environmental groups, the conservation authorities, of course, and then the towns, municipalities, and county, provincial and federal agencies and departments. And so we have certainly a very broad group of stakeholders and actors working along the coast. And that's one of our strengths, is that we have all these people at the table. And we're all working together to develop a resilience action plan, which is the diagram in the center there. See the black dot with the blue arrow around it. Ultimately, that's our goal, is to develop this plan to help us advance resilience to climate change and natural hazards. And we're working through those 4 steps to do that with the committee and with the community. There's been many engagements. It's very important for us to get out there and talk to people, and we do that as much as we can. The other part that I want to just quickly mention is the lower right-hand diagram. When we think about the coast and we think about resilience, we think about all 4 of those dimensions that are in the circles there. So of course, we're thinking about social and societal challenges, the economy and economic implications, but also about our ecosystems and how they work and need to be cared for. And then when we have physical there, this is understanding the movement of sediments along the lake and how the coast evolves. And so we have to think about all 4 of those dimensions of the coast when we're doing our work. Next, please. So now just a couple examples to give you some highlights of what we're up to in your area and with your neighbors. So town of Amherstburg to obviously to the west. The map in the lower left corner is the extent of the coastal floodplain accounting for the impacts of climate change. And so everything there in the blue is the extent of the floodwaters from a coastal event with a 100-year return period. And the road network, you can see obviously are lighting up with those bright colors. Many sections of these roads have over a meter of water on them during this 100-year event. And what we've come to learn from working with the staff is that their sewer system requires these pumps that are in the center diagram. The manhole there is a lift system to get the sewage from these low-lying coastal areas to the sewage treatment plant, and that infrastructure, the pumps are below the 100-year flood level. So should the flood come, pumps short circuit, they don't work, and we all know that can lead to catastrophic basement flooding and backup of the sewer systems. And so we're working on this project with Landmark to design a cap to protect that and critical infrastructure inside the chamber so that the pumps won't fail during a 100-year flood. Next, please. And then within Essex, one of the projects that the staff identified were the drainage systems. We have a picture of the Bondi #1 drain in the center, aerial photograph. You can see that it's got a sandbar right across it, so it's not connected hydraulically to the lake. And so it's the repetitive silting in and filling in of these outlets that was identified as a challenge. And we're working to come up with a structural solution so that they can flow more freely, and it's easy to get maintenance done when needed. And of course, it's important for these drain outlets to have that hydraulic connection to the lake so that when you do have these big rainfall events, that the water can convey quickly and efficiently to the lake. And so this is just an example, again, where we're working here right in Essex to develop a project, a concept level design here that will hopefully help mitigate future flood risks in the area. Next, please. The next project that's just getting started here is looking at the overland flood risks, again, in town of Essex, particularly the areas in Colchester to the northwest. You see a series of watersheds in the lower or the left-hand side, the map labeled there, 11 down to 1. These are smaller watersheds. They're connected to the lake either by natural outlets or the drainage schemes. But because they're not massive watersheds and have big major tributaries, they haven't been mapped before. There is no flood mapping to understand the rainfall flood risk in these areas. And so, again, working with staff and working with the county, this was an area that we identified as having repetitive floods, repetitive losses, and one that didn't have the appropriate flood mapping yet to understand the implications of these severe rainfall events, which have happened in the past. There just happened to the east in Southold last week. They happened in St. Catharines last week, 2 events in 1 week. So these intense rainfall events are coming. What we're planning to do here is to pick a couple of these watersheds, develop a very advanced computer model that will not only simulate, obviously, the rainfall, but the conveyance of that rainfall across the agricultural fields, across County Road 50, and then collecting into the drainage schemes and ultimately emptying out into the lake. And so this is, we think, a very important event. We've been talking with staff about this. We've been talking with the other consultants, working with the county, the town, Stantec, to come up with a very unique and efficient model here that can help us understand these flood risks and map the extent of the flooding so that we can make good, informed planning decisions in the future and make sure that future development is not being located on hazardous lands. Next, please. And then neighbors to the east here, Kingsville, the harbor here. This is a photo of, we're up in the bridge of the ferry. I think everyone's probably quite familiar that there is ongoing sedimentation problems into the Kingsville Harbor. It affects not only fishing boats, but especially the deeper draft ferries and some of the aggregate boats that need to get into this harbor. It's obviously a very active working waterfront here, and they have a significant sedimentation problem. So we are, again, putting together a scope that is going to look at why sediment's accumulating at the entrance to the harbor, and look at some options and alternatives to allow that sediment to bypass more freely and provide a more reliable navigation channel and ideally reduce future dredging requirements at Kingsville. So this is one that's just getting off the ground, be a big focus for the next 6 or 7 months this year. Next, please. And I think that's it. That's in the presentation. Of course, we're happy to take any questions from the council and share yourself the merit.
Thank you very much. Mr. Burney or Ms. Belanger, did either of you have anything to add before I open it up?
Thank you, Your Worship. Can you hear me? I've lost my camera here.
We can hear you, yes.
Thank you very much. I think it's extremely important, again, to echo some of Peter's comments. We, together with your staff, have been faced with dealing in a repetitive fashion with these significant and unusual storm events that seem to come in and anchor and become stationary over the town. They go beyond what normally we would have modeled. They're in areas that are we're seeing repetitive high levels of floodwaters inundate County Road 50, and we're gravely concerned that these areas don't get picked up in the normal modeling that would have been done. They exceed Lake Erie flood levels. And as we have settlement areas out in these areas wishing to proceed, we need to make sure that roads are safe for ingress egress and that appropriate standards are being provided to infrastructure and ultimately to private residences to ensure that they're adequately protected against these hazards, these flood events that we are seeing. So we're grateful that we can tap into the funding that's available through Peely Coastal to do this kind of a sheet watershed assessment. We've been in contact with the local development community and the developers' engineers, and we're hoping in a collegial fashion to proceed with this to investigate again how we move forward with providing for resiliency in these areas that we are observing these occurrences, and that again we can provide standards for development to consider with future development.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Belanger, anything to add?
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. I have nothing further to add. However, I'd be happy to answer questions if there are any for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I do want to thank you for coming, all of you, in fairly short notice after our county council meeting. When you presented to the county council, the first thing I thought was we need this presentation here at the local in Essex. You know, everybody knows my personal opinion is that I would, if I could, I would pause Colchester development until this flood modeling is complete. With that being said, is there work? We know that there are more developers that have interest in developing in Colchester. Are we looking at doing modeling where they're looking to develop first? Like, are those the high priority areas? If one of you can answer that, please, and then I'll open it up to council.
I would respond directly, Your Worship, that yes, it is. We've looked at those areas of inundation, and we've had discussions with Pete Zuzik with respect to does this fit and nest within what we're looking for this resiliency study, and it does. And then we've reached back out to your administration and also to the development community that's very active at the moment. And again, coincidentally, all of these concerns seem to be focused in that area where we do have this intensification occurring right now.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sure you're aware, we just approved an amendment to the Colchester Heights drain because there was sediment that was discovered at the base of the drain going into Lake Erie, which to me kind of highlights other red flags for the area. If that's happening at the new drain at Colchester Heights or the modified drain, then that might be happening to all of our outlets on Lake Erie. So I think there's a lot of work to be done here. And later on in the agenda, we do have the flooding motion coming back. Any members of council wishing to speak to the Peely Coastal? Councillor Mady.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, just a couple questions. First, I love the look of the Bondi drain design here. I wish that could have been incorporated in Colchester Heights. How fast can we get a read across from when you get a design like this and it works successful, so that we could implement it across all of our drains and stop the sedimentation entering into our drains?
If I may, this concept, again, is a concept that's suitable for this drain in its application. Each drain has its own characteristics, its own specific drainage needs, its own capacity assessments that would require significant additional work. This is also a concept. This is not a full design by any stretch of the imagination. It's workable for consideration for design applications, but there would be significant additional details required before anything could be tendered.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Yeah, totally understand that. What I was getting at was that this design, this approach is different than a lot of the approaches that have traditionally been taking on those drains. I could think of the chevron that gets placed in front of the drains. Mine being a newer drain that had that chevron placed in there, and we're seeing problems with it getting filled in with sediment. To see the next drain next to us using the chevron again is kind of disheartening. So I'm really hoping that we can see a drain like this with this new type of concept be successful, and then we could use that as a read across for more drains if that's possible.
I would further my previous comments that there is precious little hope that a stationary structure will fully eliminate the potential for sedimentation. It is they are concepts that will, for a majority of the time, ensure that sediment is bypassed. But the very nature, the very dynamic nature in which we collectively are all operating in, there is going to be, from time to time, elements of maintenance required. We are hoping to minimize that maintenance, and we're hoping to maximize that these outlets and these outfalls will be functional, and will attempt to keep themselves cleansed. But again, we're applying a stationary entity within a very dynamic zone. So there is still going to be need for time to time to do maintenance and removal of silt and or sediment.
Further, council meeting?
Yeah, thank you. So the next thing would be the sewer drains there with the pumps. We have a few of those in Essex too, that if this curb design here proves successful, could we get a read across on our drains for that to see if there could be possible improvements?
Maybe I'll take that one, Councillor Mady. So through your worship, I think that this work, and Tim described it well, these are conceptual designs, so we're not ready to go to construction yet. That wasn't the intent, but I think we've come up with some good ideas that do require a full design investigation, drawings, etc., and then go to tender. But I think that those curbs and raising them is an example where we can build some resilience with not a massive investment. And so I think it's been a good little project. It's an opportunity to increase that resilience and learn. And I think a big part of this project is helping all the communities, right? So we're picking targeted projects right now, but if we can do something in one community that others can learn from, then of course that would be our goal. So stay tuned, and we'll certainly keep everyone updated on the project.
Okay, I'll go to Director Gerard, then I have Councillor Hammond and Councillor Verbeek.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Bondi. So I just want a point of quick clarification. So these are municipal drains, right? So we do have to keep in mind that these are a user pay system. So these improvements, although funded to look for solutions that have that are outlets that don't have existing treatment for sedimentation, we saw like a low-hanging fruit opportunity to be able to provide an option to drain owners when they do come to the municipality. So rather than saying that they have to pay the full cost of engineering, some preliminary engineering work has taken place, but it would still need to go through the Drainage Act process to legalize both the design and the assessments for costs.
Thank you, Director Gerard. Councillor Hammond?
Yes, thank you. And through you, I'm not sure who wants to answer this, but some of these modifications at the openings of these ditches and stuff like that, are they going to be creating other problems further on down the lake by disrupting natural currents and maybe causing some erosion?
Look, I'll take a first swing at that, Councillor Hammond, through your worship. I think that the structures themselves, the footprints, are reasonably small. So we're not talking about putting a harbor hundreds of meters into the lake. But that being said, as Tim mentioned, they're still concept designs, and so to get ready to do construction, there does need to be a final design investigation, and at that point, potentially some additional work on looking at sedimentation. Certainly, our goal with all of our work on this Pele Coastal project is to avoid creating impacts, negative impacts, and so that would be the goal, is to be able to build a structure like this that's small enough that it's not going to trap a significant volume of sediment and cause any impacts to adjacent properties or the downdrift properties.
Further?
Tim, anything?
Thank you, Counselor. We'd be looking very closely at groin effect or the impact of jetty type construction. As Peter said, each reach would have to be looked at with its impact on nearshore littoral materials. And again, that it is critically important to try and maintain drainage opening along with mitigating any impacts in the updrift or the downdrift in that littoral zone. So adjusting the skew, adjusting the alignment slightly would mitigate the concern that you're raising, Counselor. So again, that final design details would have to be worked out with some additional modeling.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hammond. I have Councillor Verbeek.
Thanks, through the mayor. I guess I just had a comment. First, I want to thank this group for your work on this important issue. We know we're all experiencing a lot more of these events. So I, for one, am really grateful that you're doing the work towards helping us deal with these events. I couldn't just let it slide that I believe I heard Mr. Burney when he was speaking, when the Essex slide was up, that these occurrences, these major occurrences are located where the intensification is happening and focused on. And I couldn't let that slide because we're still wrapping up working on our official plan for our waterfront area right now in Colchester.
Thank you, Councillor Verbeek. I have Deputy Mayor Shepley, and then I'll go back to Councillor Mady.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. So thank you to guys for coming tonight. It was a pleasure to hear this report at County Council. We're glad to see that you guys could come to our meeting tonight. Some of the questions that I had have been answered. I'm just wondering if through this study, I mean, again, I'm looking forward to the findings, and I'm just wondering through this study, if outside of the Drainage Act, you're able to identify any possible funding opportunities through the province or through the federal government.
We are, through you, Your Worship, we are actively pursuing grant opportunities federally and whenever the province decides to provide some grant opportunities. But from time to time, things with respect to, again, falling out of climate change and falling out of some other pools of money, we're certainly looking on your behalf for that. Again, though, in many cases, grants are not forwarded for new development. Grants are forwarded typically for retrofit or other things, and so there may be something potentially for the silt and the sediment modification, but additional work required to allow for new development to proceed somewhere. Typically, grants aren't available for that that type of action or activity. But again, we would pursue every avenue on behalf of the municipality should something come available.
Thank you, Tim. I see Pete has his hand up. It's hand up, mic off. Pete.
There we go. Multitasking. Thank you, Your Worship. I think just one thing I want to add. the advantage of these, and they are conceptual level studies, but I think we've all seen the applications that come out, and they're looking for the shovel ready, the dreaded shovel ready projects, the term that we all wish we had a whole bunch, and they're not always ready. So there are some real advantages to taking these steps, and we haven't produced construction drawings, but we put the communities and we put these challenges into a position where, as Tim mentioned, when the funding applications come, we're ready. You're much more ready than if you just have a problem and you don't know what to do. So there are some real advantages to getting these projects advanced, even if it's conceptual level design. The other point to make, and it's we're starting to have this conversation, and it's important for everyone to know that we have this funding right now that's going to take us through till about the end of 2017, and we're not done yet. We're really just getting started. We have this fantastic committee. We have a plan. We're developing these ideas and project lists. It really is our hope that we continue this work for many years to come. And then that lets us identify other areas that have challenges, advance these designs, and put you in the queue, so to speak, so you're ready to go and apply should the appropriate type of application come to get funding to do these projects. So just wanted to mention that it's important that we get you ready, and I think that's part of what we're doing with this project.
Thank you for those answers. And just wondering, Pete, if there's anything that we could do as a council to support getting you more funding to help continue these studies as a council.
Yeah, well, so the town provides financial assistance to this. There are local contributions coming from several communities, and I think we're in our third year of some funds, which have been fantastic. And I think maybe just to seed the conversation a bit is we need to start thinking about phase 2 and looking at putting line items in your budget to provide those local matching dollars. So when we go, and obviously the big money is coming from the federal government for this work, but every dollar we have locally that is being advanced at the council level, at the county level, shows that commitment. It shows that you care about the project, that you're vested in it. And so I would just maybe encourage you on your time to have conversations with your staff and look at making commitments as best you can to continue this funding well into the future, so that we can keep going and keep doing the work that we're doing.
Thank you. That was a good question. I have Councillor Mady is going to make the motion that we receive the presentation, and then I'll go back to you, Councillor Mady, and I'll need a seconder. Councillor Verbeek, Councillor Mady.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Yeah, great work, guys. Thank you very much. I was being a little bit facetious there, those couple of questions. I did see the draft on those documents, and I knew we weren't 100% ready yet. What I was trying to point out was that the developers are always on us, always coming to us, always wanting to do us. And there are some definite areas here where we should be taking a pause. The people around this table should be thinking about what we should be allowing and not allowing, and how we're allowing it, and how we can help you guys to give us the proper answer. Because an engineering study this big, this wide, that's giving us so much possibilities for the information coming to us is pretty amazing. And I believe that whatever we can do to help, we should be doing to help with this. And that's going to help every single part of our municipality, every developer out there, everything that's being done. You guys are doing an awesome job, and I can't support your work enough. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mady. I do have a question on the work that this is doing in terms of our local settlement review. Most people know we're doing a local settlement review, and the main area that is concerning to myself in particular is the Lakeshore Residential District. Should we pause the local settlement review until these studies are done? That's one of my questions. I'm not sure who to ask that to. Director Chadwick?
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. So the team here at the Town of Essex, as well as the County of Essex, including our consultants, WSP Canada, about 2 weeks ago or so, we worked together for a good half-day workshop on where to go from here. The county has determined through Rebecca that the results of the study, or rather that the study itself, will inform the town's official plan, and that this study is being considered a background study to the town's OP. With that said, because it is integral, by default will delay certain components and will allow us to revisit the results of various components of our OP, including the settlement area review.
Okay, CEO Jerusevich?
Through the chair, just to add on to that, given how that workshop played out, we are still waiting for additional consultation from Ms. Belanger, who's on the call. Once we have that additional consultation, as far as it comes to next steps and what it looks like in this partnership, we'll be bringing an updated report to council in September with just progress. So as of right now, it kind of is paused, to be honest, given the importance that Rebecca saw in this study and making sure it was considered a background study. We're just still working through the new path, and it's quite recent on our end. So,
Okay, thank you. And the $1,000,000 question, while we're doing all of this work, was there any discussion about an interim control bylaw south of County Road 50? On development to make sure that we can get a handle on this. Since I've been mayor twice, County Road 50 South, the road has washed out and you could not get to people's homes. And I am very concerned about any development south of County Road 50. So I very much support these studies, but I'm wondering if we should put another shovel in the ground until we know any information. I'm not sure which party can answer that question.
through the chair, that concept was also discussed pretty in depth at that workshop. What we can do is in the September update, we can include what that could look like for council.
Okay, thank you. And my last question might be to the Peely Coastal team, the timelines on some of these studies that we're looking at the drains. Did you say 2027 will be done them?
Yeah, great question, Your Worship, and to yourself. The drain concept designs are, as far as reducing sedimentation, that work is largely done. There's some consultations with your staff that need to be done and to get those finalized at the concept level. The watershed and the overland flooding and the inundation of County Road 50 and the properties to the south, that is just getting started. So I suspect that I'm hoping that by Christmas time we can be quite far along. But certainly in the early part of 2027, we will be done with that work no later than the end of March. So we're looking at somewhere between 4 to 6 months, depending on how quickly we can go. We also need to consult with your staff along the way and with the Conservation Authority. So we'll make sure that we go at the appropriate speed, not too fast, and but we should be done no later than March 2027.
Okay, thank you. And I know we're taking a lot of time with this topic. It's just such an important topic. The Langleys Arner drain, the work that's getting done on that in terms of the sediment mitigation, how much longer is that expected to take?
Through the chair. So, yeah, unrelated to this project, but that I can follow up with council on an estimated timeline. We only just approved the procedural portion of it a couple of meetings ago.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you for coming, and that was carried unanimous. Moving on, we have Mr. Sean Pringle, Linda Parker, Kenna Robb, Judy Daughtery, the Essex residents, to talk about fundraising for the Essex Dog Park. If a couple of you too would like to move up to the delegation seats, you can approach council. Welcome here tonight. You do have 10 minutes. If you do need more, I can go to council and get a motion to extend if you need more time. Welcome. Just push the mic on.
Okay. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council and administrators. My name is Sean Pringle. I am speaking on behalf of the patrons of the Essex Dog Park. We are very thankful for the opportunity to speak with you this evening and to share some of our concerns as well as ideas that we believe could improve the Essex Dog Park for both residents and their dogs. We have 3 items we would like to bring to the council's attention: the proposal for covered shelters within the dog park facilities, concerns regarding the drainage in the large dog park, and a request for additional trees to be planted within the dog park facilities. First is the shelters. Our first request is for permission to explore the installation of 2 permanent all-season shelter structures within the large and small dog park facilities for the use of the Essex Dog Park patrons. As frequent users of the dog park, we can attest that the current facilities provide very little protection from the elements, including extreme UV exposure, wind, rain, and snow. This can make it difficult for residents and their dogs to comfortably use the facilities year-round, particularly during periods of inclement weather. We believe that providing designated shelter within both areas of the dog park would make the facility more accessible and enjoyable throughout the year and provide patrons and their dogs with a place to take shelter when needed. The dog park patrons are willing to take on fundraising efforts to cover the costs associated with the proposed structures, subject to any municipal requirements and approvals. At this stage, we are seeking council's guidance and approval to explore this project further. We are also requesting the council and administration provide us with any applicable regulations, bylaws, insurance requirements, utility location information, accessibility requirements, and guidelines regarding fundraising or community-led projects that would need to be followed. We would like to collaboratively work with the town to determine what type, size, placement, and design of structures would be appropriate and ensure that any proposed structures meet all municipal requirements. Second is the drainage. Our second concern relates to the storm drain located in the center of the large dog park. We have noticed that following periods of heavy rainfall, significant flooding can occur in this area, and the water can remain for several days after the rain has subsided. We have also noticed what appears to be potential backflow from the drain, which can result in an unpleasant odor. As dog owners, this raises concerns for us regarding the health and safety of the dogs using the park, particularly when standing water and potential drainage issues persist for extended periods. We are therefore asking that the drainage system be investigated and, if necessary, properly maintained or serviced to determine the cause of the flooding and the odor. We would appreciate having this concern reviewed and, where possible, having appropriate maintenance or corrective measures prioritized to help ensure the dog park remains a safe and usable space. Third is the trees. Our third request is to explore the possibility of planting additional trees within the dog park facilities. As a group, we have discussed how additional trees could provide several benefits to the park. Beyond improving the overall appearance in the facility, additional trees would provide increased natural shade for both dogs and owners. We believe that this would make the dog park more comfortable and enjoyable, particularly during the warmer months, while also contributing to the long-term improvement of the facility for future generations of residents and their pets. We would be happy to work with the town to determine the appropriate locations and tree species that would be suitable for the space and compatible with the needs of the dog park. So in closing, we would like to once again extend our sincere appreciation to your worship, members of council and administration, for your time in giving us the opportunity to bring these concerns and ideas forward. Our intention is to work collaboratively with the town to help improve the Essex Dog Park and ensure that it continues to be a safe, welcoming, enjoyable space for residents and their dogs. This concludes our request. We thank you for your time and we'd be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you very much for coming forward and initiating fundraising. Councilor McGuire, please.
Thanks through the chair. I want to thank you for coming and great presentation. I had the pleasure of meeting you in the park with Mayor Bondi and hearing all the concerns and seeing them as well. When the time is right, I would like to ask our administration to investigate the drainage that's in that park. I think that's something that needs to happen. Make sure that there is no issue. There's no collapsed drain and it's flowing properly. There's nothing clogging it. And then I would like to ask administration to provide us with some quotes on the things that they're asking for the shelter. And that would be something that then, once we have that quote and we have the specifications, we can work together to fundraise for that. So thank you for coming and offering that. And then for the trees too, I know that we do have a tree planting policy and we plant trees regularly. I'd like the dog park to see if we can add the dog park, if we can add even one tree a year or see how that can go and put that into the rotation, especially in the small dog park area. There's no trees. So just to start that, to get us some shade. So when the time's right, I would like to put that forward, please.
Okay, thank you. I will take that as a motion, a seconder to that motion. Councillor Guerin, did you want to speak to it? Councillor Guerin.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, thanks for coming. All reasonable requests. I just had a question. I see Rodney's here for Parks and Rec. The shelter and trees, were they identified in our master plan, the Parks and Rec master plan already?
Through the mayor, I don't believe there has been a master plan for that park that I've seen. I know that we brought forward some structures or shelters. We just needed to identify exactly what the shelter that we're looking for, make sure that's on the same concept level of everybody else here. The trees, we've already identified for more trees in the tree assessment that was done for the town. So there's some locations identified already for the certain types of species and whatnot we can discuss, but we want to work with our nursery, what we have. But yeah, we want to also make sure that we're not planting trees that we're going to have to remove to make sure all the structures and the drainage is in place first. So there's certain things that would have to follow in order.
Okay, thank you. So the motion is that the report be received, that administration investigate the drainage, that a report come back with costs for additional trees and the structure, and that potentially administration can meet with you on site. There's a group that goes at 10 and there's a group that goes at 2. So you can see a lot of them. I think there's more at the 10 o'clock time. So and maybe you can coordinate it on your side to have a good group of people there. Any questions, further questions to that motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much for coming tonight. And now one of our members of our administration will get in touch, and then we will certainly stay in touch and see how we can help you with your fundraising efforts. I want to thank you for fundraising as well, and not just expecting the town to do it. You know, we're spread so thin when it comes to core services that some things like this, it's good to see groups come forward. Thank you. Tonight, we will go to our reports from administration. This is where we're moving up 10.3, the Inspiration Industrial Park Servicing Tender. We do have Mr. Macbeth here and our director, Kevin Gerard. Okay, Manager Macbeth.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi, through the chair. So driven by the Inspiration Industrial Park development, the town of Essex put out a tender to service the industrial zone lands in Ward 2 off of the 14th concession in Pinkerton Road for both sanitary and water services. A tender for this work was put out by the town's engineering consultant, R.C. Spencer Associates. 7 tenders were received, but 1 was rejected due to a missing addendum. The remaining 6 tenders were evaluated based on the new Buy Ontario Act by both R.C. Spencer Associates and by Jackson Tang, the town's assistant manager of business services. And in this tender, the second lowest tenderer, Shea Rock Construction Group Incorporated, received a 10% reduction in accordance with the Buy Ontario Act, putting them ahead of the previous lowest tenderer. This results in the town paying an additional $36,628.52, including non-refundable HST for this tender. The tender did come in over budget by $751,000 and some change. And but this project was funded through development charges and Part 12 charges costs to the developer and the adjacent landowners based off bylaw 2385, which was approved by council back on October 7th, 2024. Administration will amend the schedules within this bylaw, B2 and B3, after realizing the actual capital costs after construction is completed, if approved by council. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Macbeth. I know that there's some changes coming from provincial legislation that are causing, you know, these increase in potential prices. Is there a way for administration to start to track what this change in legislation is going to cost us at the end of the day? We do want to buy local as well, but there is a cost. I'm just wondering if we're going to start tracking that, and then I'll open it up to council.
Thank you. Through the mayor, to you, Mayor. Yes, we have already established a template where we could track the results of the tenders where the Buy Ontario requirements have been applied. And as a starting point, we'll track all and then pull the statistics from there.
Okay, thank you. Members of council, you see there is a recommendation, or if you have questions to administration. At this point, looking to see if there is a mover and a seconder that the Capital Works and Asset Management report be received and that council award the tender for the Inspiration Industrial Park Servicing to Shea Rock Construction Group in the amount of $3,016,166.40, including non-refundable harmonized sales tax, and that council approve the contract administration and on-site inspection, including as-built drawings and end of maintenance inspection services to RC Spencer Associates in the amount of $117,000, including non-refundable harmonized sales tax, and that council approved the additional funding of $751,362.40, including non-refundable harmonized sales tax, to be approved from the 2026 capital budgets for this project, with $598,625 from the landfill reserve recovered through future development charge collections and $152,000 coming from Part 7 capital 12 capital costs, and that council direct administration to amend bylaw 2385 for the Part 12 water and wastewater charges with the final project cost upon completion. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor McGuire Blaze, Councillor Verbeek, any questions? Councillor McGuire Blaze.
Thanks to the chair. It's not so much a question, but I just, I want to, because we have all talked about it here, and not everybody, has the information. So, just for the public's knowledge, can we just get, the reasoning why we went with the second lowest bidder and not the lowest bidder, for our residents who are listening or reading it later at home?
Thank you. Through the chair. Under the traditional method, before the Buy Ontario requirements were in place, we would award to the lowest bidder. The changes through the directive have resulted in an additional step through the evaluation process that needs to be completed. So the initial step is to rank according to cost, and the second step is to apply an evaluation advantage to the bidder with the highest domestic supply chain plan. And that essentially tells us the proportion of the project that will be sourced from Ontario and Canada. The province has dictated that the highest supply chain should receive a evaluation advantage, and it is the domestic supply chain plan that impacted the tender results.
Thank you, Councillor McGuire Blaze. That was a good question. Deputy Mayor Shepley, and then I have Councillor Verbeek.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. So we're talking about temporarily borrowing approximately 600,000 from the landfill reserve before we can reclaim it from DCs. One, is there any concern that we maybe won't get full recovery through our DCs and the length of time that will be? And I'm a big proponent on if we borrow from our landfill reserve that we repay it with the actual interest.
Thank you. Through the chair. That is a great question. In order to recover the costs through the development charges, we do need to incorporate the additional costs that weren't anticipated in the current study into our next iteration of the development charge study. From that point, the rates will be adjusted accordingly, and we can recover the development charges on a go-forward basis. And as we all know, that is largely dependent on the area-specific development that occurs. And so I can't predict how long it would take for the development in that ward to fully repay the development, or excuse me, the landfill reserve. But that is the plan and the intent.
Yeah, CEO.
Through the chair, this is a very specific area. We created it with the last reiteration. So the industrial park is I believe it's 5 or 6 benefiting landowners. And so we've been working closely with that developer. So we believe that he's got an intent to construct fairly soon, which would mean we believe collection to be sooner than later when it comes to a long-term perspective.
So just to follow up, so will we be paying back with interest?
Thank you. Through the chair, it is a requirement to repay with interest, so we must.
Thank you, Councillor Verbeek.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. My question too is just to bring clarity for the public, and I'm wondering if you could explain a little bit about the $751,000, 362 additional funding. If you could just explain a little bit for the public. I, for one, am so happy we're finally moving forward on this.
Thank you through the chair. I can certainly speak to the, I apologize, Mayor. I'm just reactivating the camera over to me. I apologize to the members of the public for the wait there. I can speak to the funding sources that will cover the overage, being development charges in Part 12, which will be recovered from the development community. I would look to Manager Macbeth to explain what makes up the $700,000 variance in terms of the project itself.
So through the chair, to break down where the extra money, the $751,000 comes from. Originally, when this project was anticipated, it was back in 2024. The detailed design was not fully done, so often assumed design at the time. The other things that kind of have impacted the cost of this project are the fact that originally we were anticipating the developer to be moving forward with it, with the town just being responsible to pay. When they kind of realized, I think, the scope of the work, we ended up taking over the tender back around December of last year. So we had to hire their consultant to finish the work, as well as we anticipated originally having land agreements in place by the developer, but we had to take all that on. So we have costs for legal fees. We had to have agreements put in place and pay for easements. And then there's additional testing and things of the detailed design that weren't yet done that we had to take on as well. So between the 2 years since the anticipated costs and everything else along those lines, it's just construction's more and these additional things that we didn't initially plan on having as part of this original budget. Thank you.
Through the chair, just one more point to note. Industrial tax base is the type of tax base that you seek out when you're looking for growth. And so, you know, as much as a project might have been overdue, the sooner that we can get shovels in the ground, the sooner we can have an added tax base to our industrial class. So.
Councilor Meady.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Just for the 10% reduction, just for a little clarity for the public again. So their bid was like 3.3 million. After the 10% reduction, it's 3,014,000, and then we're being asked to award the amount of 3,016,000. So how does that 10% reduction work?
In the tender document, the evaluation criteria were very clearly set out ahead of time so that every bidder had the opportunity to understand the evaluation process in addition to the traditional ranking according to cost. So in terms of the evaluation, we followed the formula provided by the province, which was to take a weighted value of the Ontario-made and Canadian-made proportion of the project over the total to come up with a percentage. And the person with the highest percentage received a 10% price reduction. That price reduction was applied on the total tender price in accordance with the definitions in the tender document, which resulted in a revised cost for evaluation purposes only, of course, of 3.014 million to Shayrock, and that put them ahead.
Thank you. 3 minutes for the clarification. And so then in our report where we're being asked to approve the amount of 3,016,000, is that the correct amount?
That would be the cost with non-recoverable HST. That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from members of council? We do have a mover and a seconder, correct? Okay, at this point, Councilor Verbeek had a really good question asked for details on the additional funding. And I'm scanning the report again, just maybe next time if we could have just a little bit more of a breakdown of some of those additional things in the report. That would be my only suggestion, but I'm really grateful to see this moving forward as well. All in favor? Opposed? And Counselor Hammond is opposed. Oh, yeah. Okay, moving on, we'll go back to our regular order on our agenda. Biannual bylaw report. We have Mr. Simard here. Welcome, Corey.
Good evening, Mayor Bondi and members of council. This evening, I'll be speaking to the Legal and Legislative Services Report entitled Biannual Bylaw Report, January 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2026. As you know, this is a report that's presented on twice per year, compiling statistics and updates for council pertaining to the town's bylaw enforcement division. It illustrates the enforcement conducted among various municipal bylaws of the town for the first half of 2026. The bylaw team remains uniform in its enforcement process from the beginning stage of voluntary compliance to issuing notices of violation and serving owners with municipal work orders and/or Provincial Offences Act charges. Bylaw enforcement has conducted investigations on residential, agricultural, and commercial properties throughout the municipality during this period. A total of 314 potential violations were investigated during these 6 months. Of the 314 potential violations, 177 were based on complaints received from members of the public. The additional 137 issues that were investigated were done so proactively. Of the 314 issues, 294 have been resolved, leaving 20 actively investigated at this time. During this 6-month period, 90 complaints were received through the Report a Problem platform, 66 were received by phone, 14 were received by email, and 7 were submitted in person. And I know that council will be happy to hear this, as well as our communications team. That is by far the highest Report a Problem that we've received from a bylaw enforcement standpoint. And I do think that comes from social media, from the members of council getting the word out to residents. But that's by far our best platform to have complaints. So it's great to see those numbers climbing every period, basically. Of the 314 investigated cases, 141 fell under Property Standards Bylaw 936. Property standards issues are very wide-ranging, but the majority of them that we receive consist of tall grass and weeds, as well as exterior property debris. Lastly, there's consistent and ongoing short-term rental bylaw enforcement throughout the town. This is accomplished through regular monitoring and complaint response by the town's bylaw officers to ensure compliance from all property owners within our municipality. This includes active monitoring of internet-based booking platforms on a regular basis. As always, the public is encouraged to continue to use the town's Report a Problem online forms to submit complaints for investigation and documentation, or through the bylaw division email at bylaw@essex.ca, and that's bylaw@essex.ca. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Director Malandruco.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you, I also wanted to mention a new initiative, exciting new initiative that the bylaw enforcement team is going to be rolling out soon. We worked with our local OPP to obtain 2 bikes for our bylaw officers and the training required to operate on those bikes. So in order to increase enforcement and visibility and provide a safe and effective working environment for our bylaw officers, we're going to be using some bike patrol over the next little while. So the residents are going to see our bylaw officers out on the bikes doing their patrol. We have the ability to bring those bikes over to areas like the beach in Colchester, and the downtown core in Harrow. So you'll see those bylaw officers doing things in those areas that allow for more effectiveness as far as bylaw enforcement goes. So we're excited to see that in place, and looking forward to seeing how that works.
Thank you. That's really exciting. Any questions, comments from members of council? Councillor Guerin.
Thank you, through the mayor. So I noticed the 90 Report a Problems is very good. But with that, I'm seeing a decrease in the department-driven proactive enforcement, like a 38% reduction. Just wondering if you can explain like what's driving that reduction. Is it change in enforcement or staffing capacity? What would be a reason for that?
Yeah, through the chair. it's kind of multifaceted, to be honest. The first thing is that bylaw enforcement statistics are very helpful, but at the same time, if we take on property cleanup through property standards bylaw, it can be 3-4 months for one case. And at the same time, one parking violation would also be one case. So when we take on these large projects proactively, they often do tend to last a lot longer to get the properties in compliance. And we have been taking on more of those recently. Another factor is in the previous few terms, what we've done is do a lot of parking blitzes. And in those parking blitzes, we often go through some of the newer developments and the newer neighborhoods. And the reason being is because they often aren't compliant with the new signage that's up. By doing so, our proactive numbers do increase, but over time, compliance also increases, which means there is less proactive cases to take on in those areas. Outside of that, there's different factors. You mentioned staffing capacity. We're a small division, but the guys do work very hard. And at the same time, we did have 2 leaves during this 6-month period. So we try to capture 6-month periods. There's times where maybe in a 3-month period, you'd see a huge spike in work, and then other times where it might decrease just due to time off. And we have changed our report to compare 6-month periods that are equal from a seasonality standpoint. In the past, we were doing the previous 6 months, and that doesn't really capture bylaw very well, because in one 6-month period, you might have a lot of tall grass and debris issues. And in another period, you might have a lot of snow removal. So this way we're trying to do apples to apples comparisons. But that'd be the main reason. Just to give you a comparison, in 2023, in this same period of time, our bylaw division had 158 cases investigated with only 12 proactive. And now in 2026, you're looking at 314 investigated, 137 of which were proactive. So we're doing almost as many proactive now as we used to do total in a 3-year period. So.
Thanks a lot. The other thing I was looking at was on the report is the 90 report of problems. So my understanding is the intent of the report of problem is to direct residents to go online and use it. In the report, it breaks it down by residents and members of council. I'm wondering, of the 90 reported problem submissions, how many would be submitted by members of council versus the resident?
I don't have those stats with me right now, but I would be able to get council those statistics. I just have to run through our City Works and be able to get you those statistics to break it down between the difference between how many we're getting from council members versus the public.
Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Taking through you, Madam Mayor. Thanks for the questions. Really good questions. I was going to ask one of them, so you saved me. I just want to thank you for the report and thank bylaw for the work they do. It's definitely a thankless job of the bylaw officer to go out. He's never the guy everybody's happy to see. So we asked for some more proactive, and you've listened, and that shows in this report. And I've been hearing it from some residents as well, that they're seeing that proactive report, and they appreciate that as well. And just like with the parking, parking's been a bit of an issue that we've all complained about. We can see that you're taking steps towards that, so we appreciate it. And I just wanted to give you guys a thank you, and a thank you to the officers themselves for the work they do.
Any other questions, comments from members of council? At this point, I'll look for a mover and a seconder that the Legal and Legislative Services report be received. Councillor Guerin, Councillor Verbeek, any other questions? All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Communications, our report a problem overview, and we have our manager of communications here, Mr. Mark Totola. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi, and thank you, Council, for having me here. So today we just wanted to provide a brief overview of the town's Reporter Problem platform, specifically covering submissions that were received between January 1st and July 27th, 2026. The Reporter Problem platform provides an opportunity to look at how residents are using the platform, the types of issues being brought forward, and how quickly the requests are being addressed. It also provides an update on the town's transition from the CityWorks Respond platform, which was fully implemented at the end of last year. So I'll highlight some of the key trends from the first 7 months of 2026, compare our response times and with the same period last year in 2025, and outline some of the work underway to continue improving the customer experience. So with that, let's jump in and we'll take a look at some of the key findings. Next slide, please. So first off, what is Report a Problem? For those that don't know, Report a Problem is essentially another customer service channel for residents. It's a way for them to connect with the town. So residents can submit an issue directly through the town's website, provide information about where the issue is located, and then monitor the status of their submission. And from the town's perspective, the system allows staff to track, assign, and manage those requests. Also important to note that it isn't the only way that residents can report issues. So residents can continue to call Town Hall at any time, or they can visit any Town Hall facility to submit a request as well. Next slide, please. So one of the significant changes behind this year's numbers is the transition from CityWorks Office to CityWorks Respond. So the town previously used CityWorks Office, but following the county's decision to discontinue its service and support for the previous system, administration reviewed the available options and determined that CityWorks remained the preferred solution. The transition to CityWorks Respond was fully completed in December of 2025. So this new platform introduced a public-facing Report a Problem portal and provides greater transparency for residents, while also giving staff enhanced tools to manage requests. The focus now is less on configuring the system and more on ensuring that we're using it as effectively as possible across the organization. Next slide, please. So during the reporting timeframe of January 1st to July 27th, we saw 889 total submissions this year. And that's an increase of exactly 100 submissions from the 789 that were received during the same timeframe in 2025. So just to touch on what Corey had mentioned, we are seeing a really big uptake of the system, which is fantastic. And you can see by these numbers that we're receiving well over 100 submissions a month. Which is great because we do want to direct residents to contact the town through this method as much as possible to kind of streamline the process. So when we look at what residents are reporting, the largest category by a significant margin is roads, sidewalks, and bridges, at about 26% of the submissions. That's followed by parks, splash pads, and harbor/beach, and hazard trees and branches, which were each around 10%. These categories give us a useful picture of the types of issues residents are bringing forward to the town's attention through this particular service channel. Next slide, please. Now, taking a look at the average time to close submissions. So the average time to close a Report a Problem submission improved from 7.6 days in 2025 to 6.6 days in 2026. So this is demonstrating a continued responsiveness despite the transition to the new software. Next slide, please. While the average time to close has improved, there are a couple of other measures that are worth taking a look at. So the percentage of requests closed within 3 days decreased from 57% to 51%. And similarly, the percentage of closed within 14 days decreased 92% from 84%. So it's important to put those numbers into context. Report a Problem submissions vary considerably in their complexity. Some issues can be resolved very quickly, while others require inspections, seasonal work, coordination of contractors, or additional investigation. So while we're seeing an improvement in the overall average time to close a ticket, we're also continuing to look at where these delays are occurring and how our internal workflow can be improved. Next slide, please. Just touching a bit on promotion. So the town continues to promote the use of the system through various communication channels, including paid and organic social media posts, email signature banners, print ads, text inserts, instructional videos, and outdoor signage as well. And just a shout out to council, I think everyone is doing a really good job of directing residents to the platform as well, which has been really helpful on our end. Next slide, please. All right, and just taking a look at what's next. So staff training is continuing across the organization, with current work focused in part on the transfer of tickets between departments. We're also continuing to review reporting structures and internal workflows to make sure that the requests are moving through the organization as efficiently as possible. Externally, we'll continue to promote the system to residents and make sure that they are aware of it and how to use it. And we'll continue to monitor the data, including submission volumes, categories, and response times, so we can identify opportunities to improve the customer experience. Next slide, please. So that concludes the overview, and the recommendation before council is to receive the report. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Mayor Bondi, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Verbeek and then Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Thanks, through you, Madam Mayor. So this tool is working exactly as we hoped, and that's great. When we went on our walkabout down at the harbor, there were the QR codes. People could scan with their phone and they went right to the portal for report a problem about issues at the marina. That's brilliant. Like, kudos to whoever initiated that. Is there any talk about having these at other facilities around town?
Through the mayor. Yeah, so in terms of signage, it is something that we're looking at. We know that a lot of our signage was created years ago, so we're kind of getting to a point where we're slowly starting to revamp things like parking signage by the harbor, you know, different signage throughout the municipality. So this is something that we are kind of keeping top of mind where we can. We will include information on report a problem just so it's out there in the community exactly where people need to access it.
Deputy Mayor Shepley, then Councillor McGuire, please.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. One of the issues that I have run into it's great to see the numbers going up, but we certainly push everybody to do the report a problem, is the difficulty with the mapping. I don't know if you've heard this yet, but I've experienced it myself when trying to do one. You can't. So 9 times out of 10, we just click City Hall because it's the only one that seems to work easily. So I was just wondering if there's any work being done to address that issue, because it has been something that I've heard over and over again, and there's nowhere to do that on the reporter problem.
For sure, through the mayor. Yeah, so that's actually something I've been hearing through the communications department as well. Just to give a little bit of context, the mapping functionality of the portal, we don't really have control, unfortunately, over the functionality of it. It's just, you know, the way it is at the moment. There is the possibility to add a pin on a specific location. So if you click the little pin icon, you can drop a pin anywhere on the map, which is really helpful because then it gives us at least the coordinates so we can kind of get an idea of where that problem is located. But with that, I think something from a communication standpoint that we can do is provide some further education on how to use that mapping system, because I do understand that it at times cannot be the most user-friendly. So I think we'll take that back and we'll look at if there's ways that we can kind of do some more public instructions basically on how to use the mapping.
Councillor Hammond, then Councillor McGuire.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Short-term rentals, 1% down, incredible. Like, wow. So is it now I also noticed that some of our more top offenders are no longer with us. Now, is this due to them not being able to follow the bylaws and getting fines or whatever? Like, how come we're down so much?
Director Malandrucolo.
So through the chair, with regard to the short-term rentals, I think what we had there was a learning curve. We had short-term rentals operating that didn't know that they needed a license. I think we had some short-term rentals operating that never received a license. So you saw those properties either learn about rules or shut down because of the new rules. So we're receiving a lot less complaints now because either the problem properties have shut down, as you've mentioned, or the owners are now aware of their responsibilities and are complying.
And another question regarding there's a couple repeats in your graph here. Harbors and beaches for one comes up with a 0%, and then another one comes up with a different percentage. For instance, parks, splash pads, and harbor and beaches, 10%, and then there's one right beside it, same heading, 0%. Is there a difference between these two, or why do we have zeros up here?
Through the mayor. Yeah, so some of those discrepancies are just due from the transition from the old system to the new system. So there was some changes that had to be made behind the scenes. We changed category names. So if the name was changed, it might show up as a 0 for the previous name, but it was transferred over to the new name. So just some of kind of the kinks in transferring from the old CityWorks Office platform to the new CityWorks Respond. So I think this year will give us some better baseline data to compare to now that we're on the new system and fully functional.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor McGuire Blaze.
Thanks for the chair. Great report, and I do like the report of problem. A lot of people find it useful. Some feedback that even I have had myself is once so somebody submits a problem, it's responded to and closed, but there's no way now for the resident to like come in. So there's no way for them to go back into like the chain, I guess you would say, to ask for an update or ask for clarification. So then they are having to call the town and going through the process or submitting another report a problem. Is there a way that we can add like some kind of way for them to ask an additional question to the report a problem?
Through the mayor, so that's a good question. And I know exactly what you mean. Once the ticket is closed and the resident does not have access to then follow up with additional questions. Just off the top of my head, I think there is some things we can do process-wise in terms of just setting the status to maybe pending before it goes to close. So that they have an opportunity or a window to follow up, even if it's just like a 3-day window or whatever that may look like. So I think we'll bring that back to the team and see if maybe there's a change in our workflow behind the scenes that will just allow that ticket to remain open a little bit longer, so that a resident does have the opportunity to follow up.
So thanks. So that would be perfect, especially if we could give them what the resolution's going to be and then leave that open for 3 days. So they have an opportunity to see what the answer is. And then I either ask an additional question or even to say thank you for the quick, I think that would really help. So thanks for looking into that.
Any other questions, comments from members of council? Sometimes on my report of problems, when they come back, it says, if you have any other further questions, contact so-and-so. And so I find that helpful sometimes because it'll take the resident right to that staff member responsible. Because a lot of residents, they do a report of problem because they don't know who to contact. They're just like, I don't know who to contact. So, and I like how the report of problem has been evolving. Like, for example, with the construction of the intersection, our administration made a modification for construction related inquiries right now, so they can really hone in, and it's really a parking lot for all of the inquiries we get. So and we're making really good progress on the streetlights. I have Streetlight Friday, so I'm really happy about that. And then I used to see something on our town page, and I don't know who even gets the email. It might be Sarah Bell, but for feedback, just general feedback. Sometimes people want to send us feedback. Hey, I really like this, or can you keep in mind that? So I'd like us to review where that feedback goes and maybe put that out there on social media again so that people can give feedback to administration as well. And then the dog poop signs in the Harrow Memorial Park are really working. So thank you for putting those up. I had to mention that. And then due to the election period, I just wanted perhaps our CEO to go over a little bit more about how the report of problem. Us as council are always supposed to direct residents to use a report a problem. A lot of times residents feel that they pay us to do the report a problem. I've been told that. We pay you to do that report a problem. You need to do it. But really, that keeps us in, I call it the hamster wheel. If we elected officials spend all day doing report a problems and we can't really read the reports the way we need to read them or dive deeper and do research. So And so we have harder lines during the election so that we're not going out there and collecting report a problem and fixing them to get votes. So I'm just wondering if our CAO can talk to some of the processes in place, maybe even let the public know about the CAO email, just to ensure that the incumbents up here do not have an unfair advantage of doing report of problems for votes.
Yeah, so a couple of points. Best practice always is that the resident lodges the report a problem, and there's various ways that they can do that. They can do that online. There's paper copies up at our customer service desk, and they can also phone in the report a problem if they're having troubles using the system. If that resident doesn't feel that they received an appropriate response, doesn't feel their matter was taken care of as they thought fit, then that would be when a counselor would become involved to advocate on behalf of their residents. And that would be the escalation step. And so if it was closed too early, that was a good example. Or if the solution doesn't satisfy them, that's when a council member would escalate it and we would continue triaging that. When it comes to the CAO email, what is implemented throughout the election period is cao@essex.ca email. And what happens is the Office of the CAO triages any incoming inquiries from council members and basically moderates as to if that response should be provided to all of council or even the elections email if necessary. And so that really is the best practice throughout an election period. It was done in our previous elections as well. And it just ensures that everyone has access to the same information during this period.
Okay, thank you. And a question that I've had, I'm not sure it's been worked out at the senior leadership team is, can CSRs take down bylaw complaints? Is that something that we've worked out? Because I've seen people come in, try to do a bylaw complaint and they say you need to go directly to bylaw. But if you're doing the report a problem online, you don't have to go, you can go directly to bylaw. But I'm just wondering if somebody has a hard time doing it online and they need to come into a person, a member of the bylaw team might not be there.
Through the chair. So Mr. Tortola and I are continuing to make some modifications because we are noticing some issues and we don't want that. We want to encourage use of the program. And so I don't have confirmation if that change has been implemented yet, but it was on our list to do. The other thing that we are currently working on is creating scripts for each department so that appropriate responses are issued to the residents and that we're giving them as much information as we can. So still some improvements to be made, still some improvements to come.
Okay, thank you. Please keep us updated if the CSRs can actually handle the bylaw complaints in person. At this point, I'll look for a motion that the report of problem overview from January to July be received for information. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Hammond. Any other questions, comments? All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Great job. Moving on to results for tender for supply of single axle 5-ton snowplow. We have Director Gerard here for questions. I'll get the motion on the table. The operations report be received and that council award the request for tender of the supply of single axle 5-ton snowplow truck 2026 to 401 Truck Source in the amount of $265,732, including non-refundable harmonized sales tax. And that council approved the additional expense of $5,732 for capital project, the 5-ton snowplow new unit to be funded from development charges. Moved by Councillor McGuire-Blaze, supported by Councillor Hammond. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. So with reading the report, it says a new snowplow truck. So I want to make sure it's not a new including service, or is it replacing a truck already in service? And if you could answer that, that's the main question I have.
Through the through the mayor. So it is a new unit, so it's an additional unit to our fleet. It was approved in the 2026 budget.
So with that being a new unit, so there'll be new expenses for insurance, gas and all that'll come to us again this budget. So we'll be able to make those decisions and answer those questions.
Through the chair. So because this was included in the 2026 capital budget, it was also included in the operational expenses as well for 2026. There is obviously a perpetual cost of the things that you're talking about, like fuel and maintenance and insurance. So those are all included in the 26 budget and will be carried forward in perpetuity.
I'm just wondering if you could maybe speak to what growth or service requirement is the driving force behind adding another new unit to what we already have?
Through the mayor. So in order to keep our current level of service with growth of residential development, proposed industrial development, there's a growing need for maintenance and additional staff included to plow these roads, to maintain them. So this truck will help us to keep up with our current level of service. So it will ultimately help us to get the roads cleared within the timelines specified by minimum maintenance standards and that legislation.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from members of council? I will be supporting the recommendation. I'm happy to see this. I do know that we are growing, and I think we do a really good job at snow removal. And I think that if we could just plant evergreens or something down our rural roads to stop the snow drifts, because I do know our trucks are out there all the time, but we could always use an additional truck. And then if one gets broken, then we won't notice it as much. So everybody likes the roads plowed a lot. Any other questions? I know. They complain a lot. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Appointment of an engineer under Section 78 of the Drainage Act for the Dolson Creek Drain, needing a mover and a seconder, that council appoint Spirit Associates London Limited under Section 78 to modify a crossing. Moved by Councillor Mady, Deputy Mayor Shepley. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Development Services, our analyst, economic development and business retention position will go to Director Chadwick.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi, and good evening, Council. So the Economic Development and Business Relations Analyst position was originally created in 2024 as recommended through the town's organizational review. It's also been partially funded through a Rural Ontario Development Grant, otherwise known as a ROD grant. The position, as you know, is responsible for various initiatives: economic development, business relations, grant coordination and writing, tourism initiatives, and implementation of various strategic corporate initiatives. So as council is aware, one of the benefits of the position has been the increased capacity for grant funding pursuits. So far in 2026, the town has secured more than $328,000 in grant funding, with over $19.5 million in pending applications. Last year as well, and that's, by the way, that's so far in 2026. So last year in 2025, the town secured more than $525,000 in approved grants and pursued additional funding opportunities in highly competitive grant programs. In fact, approved application-based grant funding increased approximately 83% between 2024 to 2025. If you may recall, however, the organizational review actually contemplated moving grant coordination to the finance department once the new finance position was in place. Since that time, the town has learned that its existing financial software is being decommissioned, and so that would require significant resources. So as a result, administration is recommending that grant coordination remain in development services until further notice. I'd like to emphasize, however, that while grant funding and coordination receives a great deal of attention because the results are measurable, a significant amount of Rayanne's time is also devoted to advancing council strategic priorities, supporting local businesses, assisting with economic development initiatives, conducting research and analysis, coordinating tourism-related projects, and providing support on various corporate-wide initiatives. So our recommendation is therefore not simply about retaining grant writing capacity. It is about retaining a position and an employee that has become a strategic resource for the corporation and ensuring continuity in the delivery of these various services, while council then considers the long-term future of the role through the 2027 budget process. So what we're recommending is a 6-month contract extension at a cost of just over $58,000 to be funded through the Salary Stabilization Reserve. And we believe that this approach, the contract extension for a few months, maintains continuity, but it also allows council to consider a permanent position in the 2027 budget process. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Chadwick. Counselor Hammond.
Yes, thank you. Through you. You mentioned how much we received in grants. How much have we not received? Like what we've applied for versus what we're getting? What's the difference there?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So that report was provided to council just last month. I can certainly pull that up in a few moments if you allow me to do that. That data is ongoing. It's a rolling number. And although not a part of this particular report, was just presented to council just a month ago. So I'm sure we can pull that up really quickly.
Any other questions, comments from members of council? Councilor McGuire, please.
Thanks through the chair. I'm just wondering, why we would be discussing this in open session, because we are talking about someone's position here, and do we want to keep it or not? I feel like it's a sensitive issue that maybe we could have had a discussion in closed first, and then brought it into open. So we're not like, I thought that was the procedure. Can we explain why we're talking about it in open first like this?
We'll go to Director Malandrugolo. I do believe we've done an extension like this before. I don't know, but Director Malandrugolo.
So through the chair, if council thinks that there's a reason to go into close, you as a council member could always bring that motion and go into closed. I can assist you with the reasons for going into that motion, but I think you know what it is. So if you want to bring that motion, if you have a second, you can go ahead and bring that motion.
Let me go to CAO Drusevich and then I'll come back.
Through the chair, completely agree. The reason why it was presented in open first is typically that is our process when it comes to new positions or any type of budget impact. So the budget impact is required in open regardless. But if you want confidential personnel information, we absolutely can head into a closed session.
I think I'd like to ask for a closed session, just briefly about this.
Okay, I'm wondering if we already have to go back into closed tonight. I'm wondering if we can take Director Malandrugolo, we have to go back into closed. Can we add this then rather than ask everybody to leave and then come back?
So through the chair, my one concern with going into close is that this is something that we want to then come into open. So that would mean that we'd have to bring this back. We'd have to bring the open portion back to our September 9th meeting. So I think it does make sense to probably do a close now. We could, instead of having everyone leave, council could leave and we can go to our new meeting room and do our closed in there if that works.
Councilor McGuire, please.
Well, I guess let's try that and see where we vote. Maybe the rest of council feels comfortable discussing it and voting on it in open session. So I'm gonna suggest that and see where the rest of council's at.
You're going to suggest that we stay in open right now? Go to closed. Okay, so moved by Councilor McGuire Blaze, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley, that we move into closed. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? I think that's carried. Okay, everybody in the audience, we'll be right back. I think you can stay here. So we're resuming our public session at this time. We are still discussing the Development Services Report, the Analyst Economic Development and Business Relations position. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Madam Mayor, at this time, I will move the motion for the continuity of the work that she's already done and is currently working on, that we approve this position, and then the next term of council can determine if it's a full-time position or if they end it at that point in time.
Supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any questions to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Moving on to our results for request for proposal, design, supply, install playground equipment amenities at Essex Town Center Park. Looking for a mover and a seconder that council reward the proposal to design, install the playground equipment to New World Park Solutions in the amount of $368,552.85. Moved by Councillor McGuire Blaze, Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? Councillor McGuire Blaze.
Thanks through the chair. I know Director Morrisou is not here right now. So if you can try to answer as best as we can. I have been asked by two people why the parks are so much in cost, over almost $400,000 for a new park, and if we have ever considered doing something maybe outside of the box, like a bike paths or more skate parks instead of the jungle gym that we continuously see when we're building a new park.
So through the chair. So yeah, our parks master plan kind of sets our standard for what a playground, neighborhood playground is supposed to be. So we kind of have that criteria kind of set out in that master plan. That's why we have that information kind of set. Those other amenities that you're referring to, like a skate park, that's more of a community park area. So that would be kind of a larger scale project. This is more just for the playground or for the neighborhood in that area. As far as the cost, this one is being funded entirely through development funds, development fees. It's kind of associated for the new development in that area behind the Essex Home Hardware. The cost being as high as it is, it was mainly because the entire area is just a field basically right now. So more than just the playground, there's also some sidewalks, some other features that are being installed in this design as well. And that's where the additional costs come from.
Thanks to the chair. And one of the things that I wanted to ask about this park, it looks beautiful, but I noticed there's nothing like a basketball net for maybe the older kids. It really does look more like it's for ages 10 and under. I'm wondering if there's plans to put some kind of a basketball net or maybe a soccer net or something for the older kids to play, especially in this area right now. There's no access to the other community centers that we mentioned. Hopefully we can get those sidewalks put in place. I know we're working towards that goal, but is there any plans to put anything else in this park for older kids?
So through the chair, currently, no, there's some areas that is left open for open space, for open play, basically for soccer or other amenities like that. But there was no basketball courts or anything like that. That was kind of initiated in the initial design that went out to the public. So there was some public consultations that we did have on the design proposals for this playground as well. And those additional amenities weren't really a focal point or a big push from the public that we got back from the feedback. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments from members of council? Manager Klee, I think there was a couple other questions from the community.
Yes, the chair. There's a few other points that I kind of wanted to go over, making sure that we kind of touch base on it. So the request for proposal was posted on May 7th and then closed on June 10th for the design and installation of the Essex Town Center Park. It's the new subdivision area behind the Essex Home Hardware. The request for proposal had a spending limit within it, and that's what all the applying contractors had to stay within. And it was roughly $410,000. That's including all taxes. And that was fully funded through the development fees for that area. And it was also approved in council's capital projects this year. The companies that applied, there was 3 companies that submitted proposals. There's a total of 4 proposals that fell in the approved budget. After the town administration reviewed all the proposals, there was 4 designs. We also then went out to a public vote. There was 490 members of the public that voted on the submitted proposals. 350 votes, just over 350 votes were for the design that we're proposing for council today. So I'm asking for council's approval, just as was stated in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Klee. Any other questions, comments from members of the council? Okay, all in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Moving on to special events resource team for July 2026, looking for a mover and a seconder that the report prepared by Tim Stanley be received for information. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councilor McGuire-Blaise, all in favor, or any questions? All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Well. So tonight is our last meeting for our youth member, Lauren Smith. So I'd just like to congratulate you. I'm wondering if you can, if you have a little bit of a report tonight, and can you please remind us how long you've been here as well?
Through the chair, I started the term when the application came out, so it would have been 2022. So grade 9 to grade 12. Yes. My report tonight, through the chair, today marks my final meeting as a youth council member, and I would like to take a moment to sincerely thank town council and administration for giving me the opportunity to serve as a member of youth council. Being involved in council has provided me with experience and resources that have allowed me to give back to the town, specifically within my community service project, the FunFest 5K, which I am proud to share has donated a total of $26,000 to the Essex Area Food Bank. I'm incredibly proud of what this project has accomplished, and I am grateful that my involvement with council helped give me the confidence, resources, and experience to make this happen. I would especially like to encourage council to continue including a youth council position in future councils. Giving young people a seat at the table provides them with invaluable opportunities, professional growth, leadership development, civic engagement, and firsthand experience in how our community operates. At the same time, I believe youth bring a unique perspective that can benefit the decision-making process and help ensure that the voices and experience of younger residents are represented. Thank you to council and administration for trusting me with this opportunity, listening to my ideas, and allowing me to contribute to the town of Essex. I'm incredibly grateful for everything I've learned throughout my time on council and hope that future youth representatives are given the same opportunity to learn, contribute, and make a difference in our community. It has been an honor to serve the town of Essex. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. CAO Drusevich. Oh, sorry. I'll come back to you in case you have anything. CAO Drusevich.
Thank you through the chair. Lauren, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, and we wish you all the best from both council and administration. We do have a thank you card for you. We'll arrange to get together maybe sometime in the next week or two if that works for you. But congratulations and best of luck on your next steps.
Mr. Foster.
Now the more exciting report. So the Essex Youth Center is open. We've been open all summer. We'll be open through August 21st. If you guys have any youth from the grades 8 to 12, we're open every day from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. So come and stop on in.
Thank you. And Lauren, don't run away after the meeting. I have to get a picture, an autograph maybe from you. Okay. County Council update. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the County Council highlights be received. Deputy Mayor Shepley supports Councilor Verbeek. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. County Council, the USWA board was going to meet at AMO to talk about recycling and getting diversion rates from us, but that AMO delegation was canceled. So we just learned about that at County Council. I was a little disappointed to hear about that. 13.1, let's receive them all, and then if members of council wish to pull out any specific ones. Looking for a mover and a seconder that we receive them all. Moved by Councilor McGuire-Blaise, supported by Councilor Hammond. All in favor? That's carried. Any members of council wish to pull out any particular items? Councilor McGuire-Blaise.
Thank you through the chair. I want to pull out 13.1.10. It's just a response from the Ministry of Transportation in regards to the letter that we sent on the Canadian Thistle along South Talbot or along the corridor of Highway 3. I just want to acknowledge that let the public know that the ministry has heard your request to have something done. I do continue to want to encourage the public to send those letters in to let them know that it is an issue. I feel like their letter doesn't say we're going to clean it up. It says we know that it's a problem. So I just want to continue the public to continue to push MTO, send your letters, make your phone calls until they actually take action and actually do something about the area. So wanted the public to be aware of that and put that back out there that even though we've received a response, it doesn't mean that they're going to actually do something. So squeaky wheel gets the grease. Keep sending in your complaints.
Okay, thank you, Councilor McGuire Blaze. I'll just paraphrase it a little bit. Thank you for sharing your concerns regarding the Canada Thistle along Highway 3. I appreciate the opportunity to respond on behalf of the Ministry of Transportation. The ministry is aware of concerns regarding Canada Thistle within portions of the Highway 3 corridor and continues to review conditions in the area. Managing roadside vegetation along a highway corridor requires consideration of site conditions, environmental factors, available treatment options, and long-term vegetation management objectives. The ministry continues to assess the matter and determine appropriate next steps. As part of this work, the ministry is consulted with the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness and other stakeholders to obtain potential management approaches. Should you require any further questions regarding this matter, please contact the Maintenance West office. So I actually believe that we should follow up again, asking them, you know, what else are they doing and how can we assist? Director Malin-Duclos?
So through the chair, I believe the original motion asked them to explain to us what their steps are going to be. So I think we'll respond to this letter and just say, we acknowledge that you said you'll be taking steps. We look forward to hearing from you with regard to what those are. And we'll keep council updated on any response we receive.
Thank you. And perhaps like add a timeline to those steps. It'll be hard for us to get any headway if we don't get headway there. Any other items in 13.1, members of council? Okay, moving on to correspondence to be received and supported. The Municipal Finance Officers Association, the permanent doubling of the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the correspondence from the Municipal Finance Officers Association be received and supported, and that a letter from the town of Essex be sent to the Honorable Tom McCarthy and the Honorable Rob Flack and the Honorable Peter. And looking for a mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Hammond. And you want to read it? Director Malin-Duclos.
Whereas recent municipal infrastructure funding programs by the Government of Canada and Province of Ontario have tended to prioritize growth-related or housing-enabling infrastructure projects over infrastructure renewal needs, and whereas the Government of Ontario has regulated municipal infrastructure asset management through OREG 58817, Asset Management Planning for Municipal Infrastructure, under the Infrastructure for Jobs and Prosperity Act 2015, and whereas municipal asset management plans and the Financial Accountability Office of Ontario have identified that municipalities have significant state of good repair backlogs and renewal needs for infrastructure, and whereas the Government of Ontario doubled the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund from $2 million per year to $200 million per year to $400 million per year for 2021 to 2026, but has not publicly committed to maintaining this level of funding beyond 2026, and whereas the OCIF has become a vital and indispensable resource for municipalities, assisting them with improving their asset management programs and meeting community-preserving infrastructure renewal needs, and whereas increased geopolitical uncertainty is threatening the economic prosperity of Canada, Ontario, and every municipality, and whereas municipal infrastructure is a key enabler and preserver of economic prosperity, and whereas the Municipal Finance Officers Association of Ontario has heard from its members and their municipalities concerns regarding the potential erosion of existing municipal infrastructure and thus service levels in light of the ongoing focus on housing enabling infrastructure by grant funding programs.
Thank you. All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Now therefore be it resolved, the town of Essex supports the MFOA's letter to the Minister of Infrastructure requesting that the doubling of the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund be made permanent in advance of allocations for 2027 calendar year, helping municipalities to continue to build housing enabling infrastructure while preserving the economic value provided by existing infrastructure. And there's some other municipalities that have also supported this correspondence. So committee meeting minutes, we do have the Essex BIA in the Drainage Court of Revision in the Committee of Adjustment. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Hammond, Deputy Mayor Shepley, any questions for those minutes? All in favor? It's carried unanimously. We have financial, we have our operating variance report. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the operating variance report be received for information. Moved by Councillor McGuire Blaze, Deputy Mayor Shepley, any questions? All in favor? That's carried. And looking for a mover and a seconder that the capital variance report be received for information. Moved by Councillor Guerin, supported by Councillor Mady. Any questions? I do have one. I saw a 2024 project on there. I believe it was Irwin Avenue. Just wondering how long we carry these forward, if there's outstanding issues on that project, or why it's on this year's variance report. Director Rowe.
Thank you, through the chair. Just generally speaking, it does take some time to round up all of the final costs and release all of the holdbacks. And we typically want to wait until we're certain that all of those activities have been completed and checked off of our list before moving them over to our TCA and asset management listings permanently. But they are on our radar and will be closed out as soon as all of that is completed.
Okay, thank you. And the Harrow Streetscape with the POX done, was that the last deficiency? Okay. That was the last deficiency for the Harrow Streetscape. Okay. Any new, did we vote on that? Sorry, it's been a long day. All in favor? And that's carried. There was no new business brought to our attention tonight. We do have some notices of motion. Director Malindrook.
Thank you, Mayor Bundy, through you. Whereas the town of Essex has experienced recurring flooding events that have impacted residents, infrastructure, and local businesses, whereas these flooding issues may be influenced by a combination of factors, including stormwater management, aging infrastructure, land use patterns, and climate-related changes, and whereas a coordinated evidence-based approach is necessary to identify root causes and develop effective long-term solutions, Mayor Bondi moves a notice of motion that therefore be it resolved that council directs administration to develop a comprehensive flooding roadmap that will, 1, summarize the known causes and impacts of flooding within the municipality of the town of Essex, 2, review existing infrastructure studies, programs, and planned improvements in relation to flooding prevention, response, and mitigation, 3, clarify the roles of the town and relevant external agencies and partners with regard to flooding prevention, response, and mitigation, 4, establish an approach to public communication, education, and stakeholder engagement with regard to flooding prevention, response, and mitigation. 5, identify immediate, medium-term, and long-term mitigation measures to address flooding in the town. And 6, set out priorities, timelines, responsibilities, estimated costs, funding opportunities, and progress reporting with regard to the suggested measures. Be it further resolved that such flooding roadmap consider how flooding initiatives will be incorporated into the town strategic plan, master servicing plan, asset management plan, capital planning, emergency management activities, and other relevant municipal plans. That such flooding roadmap include options for ongoing community and stakeholder involvement, including consideration of a flooding committee, and that administration report back to council with such proposed flooding roadmap within 6 months of the passing of this resolution for council's consideration.
Thank you, Director Malindrook. Moved by Mayor Bondi, seconded by Councillor Mady. Any questions or comments? Or Mayor Bondi, you go first, sorry.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. We did have a meeting with several delegates that came to council with members of administration. And then I did also talk to the CAO, and it was actually her idea to come up with a flooding roadmap by working with Director Gerard. So the flooding roadmap doesn't tie us to anything today. It just commits us to developing a roadmap, and then the new term of council can decide a little bit more details. But it also lays out the fact that we do want to look into some of these issues. Like we do want to look into the causes, review infrastructure. You know, we're already doing some steps with the Peely Coastal that was coming here tonight. So lots of good work that we're doing, but the flooding roadmap would be like a flooding strategic plan where it would show us all the steps that we could take. I don't know if our CAO wants to add anything.
No, that summarized the vision pretty good. I think it was great teamwork because we sat in a room with all the delegates and heard their feedback, and some of that's reflected in here. So there were some great ideas. And it incorporates most of what was wanting to be accomplished in the first reiteration. And so we'll look forward to developing it. And it also will highlight programs that we already have and where those can be improved upon. So sort of a snapshot.
Any questions or comments? Councilor McGuire-Blaze.
Thanks to the chair. Appreciate this motion. It does sound like a lot. So I know that this motion, we kind of put the secondary plan on hold to see what this report came back at. How long do we anticipate this report to be? And will it be too late? Like, when do we have to approve the secondary plan? Like, how does that work?
Through the chair, I will pass it over to Director Chadwick to talk about the approval process of the LSAR, the secondary plan. That has to be done in conjunction with the county, who believes that that should be a background study, the Peely Resistance Coastal Study. This is separate from that. So this was sort of a plan, a strat plan as to how we're going to tackle flooding right now, even with that current OP, what it would look like. And then it was tying it into a long-term vision as to while we're completing these studies, you should invest here, here, and here. So I don't know if that answers your question, but the Peely Coastal is a different study outside of this. And this was more meant to be sort of an administrative and council tool on things we're doing currently, things we want to do, and then even longer term future.
So thanks. Just maybe let me just be a little bit more clear. Are we holding back the secondary plan until this report is done?
No. So it's not tied to that. So no.
Any other questions or comments?
Can I ask for a recorded vote?
Yes, you can. Mayor Bondy's asked for a recorded vote. Director Malin-Drinkwell.
Thank you. Through the chair, Mayor Bondi has requested a recording vote. Mayor Bondi, how do you vote?
Support.
Mayor Bondi supports. Deputy Mayor Shepley, how do you vote?
Support.
Deputy Mayor Shepley supports. Councilor Verbeek, how do you vote?
Support.
Councilor Verbeek supports. Councilor McGuire-Blaze, how do you vote?
Support.
Councilor McGuire-Blaze supports. Councilor Guerin, how do you vote?
Support.
Councilor Guerin supports. Councilor Hammond, how do you vote?
Support.
Councilor Hammond supports. Councilor Meady, how do you vote?
Support.
Councilor Meady supports, so the motion is passed unanimously.
Moving on to the second notice of motion this evening, Director Malin-Drinkwell.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you, the following notice of motion is was brought forward at the July 2026 regular council meeting and is being brought forth this evening for council's consideration. Moved by Councilor Guerin, whereas council recently participated in a tour of the town's downtown cores in the community of Harrow and Essex Center with administration and residents to identify opportunities for improvement. Whereas maintaining clean, attractive, and welcoming public spaces contributes to community pride, supports local businesses, and enhance the overall appearance of the town. And whereas residents, business owners, service clubs, community organizations, and property owners may be interested in volunteering to help improve their neighborhoods and public spaces. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council direct administration to prepare a report considering the possibility of establishing a voluntary adopt a public space community stewardship program that would allow volunteers such as residents, business owners, property owners, community groups, schools, and service clubs to assist in maintaining designated municipal areas, and that administration should consider including the following in such report: eligibility and participation requirements, appropriate locations and areas that could be adopted, permitted activities, including but not limited to litter and debris collection, reporting maintenance issues, removal of unauthorized posters and advertising from municipal property, light beautification activities where appropriate, seasonal activities such as assisting with sidewalk snow clearing where feasible and legally permitted, volunteer agreements, insurance liability and workplace safety considerations, any equipment or supplies the town may provide for example, garbage bags, gloves, litter grabbers, safety vests, etc. Recognition opportunities for participating volunteers and organizations, including signage where appropriate, estimated costs and staffing implications, and examples of similar programs implemented successfully by other Ontario municipalities.
Okay, thank you, Director Malin-Drucolo. Looking for a seconder. Deputy Mayor Shepley. Councillor Garron, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, sure. So this request is not so much time sensitive or urgent as some of our other reports, but when we did the walkthrough of our Essex and Harrow downtown cores, there was some opportunities identified for improvement in cleanliness and appearance and overall experience of our public spaces. So basically, trying to improve on our already beautiful downtown cores through partnership rather than tax dollars and added staff hours.
Thank you, Councillor Garron. Anyone else wishing to speak to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried unanimously. Director Malin-Drucolo.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you, the following notices of motion are for presentment only and will be brought forth for council's consideration at the September 8, 2026 regular council meeting. Moved by Mayor Bondi that council direct administration to review the archway sign entering the Harrow Fairgrounds and prepare a report to council with potential modification options with the associated costs, and that such report include the council approval criteria for future gateway and prominent community signage. Also moved by Mayor Bondi, whereas the growth of digital infrastructure has accelerated the development of data centers, which introduce substantial local infrastructure requirements and significant intersecting vulnerabilities to the town of Essex, including risks to stormwater runoff, regional conservation watersheds, municipal water, wastewater treatment, water capacities, and electrical grids. Whereas the Council of the County of Essex, at its meeting on August 5, 2026, directed county administration to undertake a comprehensive land use planning policy study regarding data centers in consultation with its constituent local municipalities. Whereas the comprehensive zoning bylaw of the Corporation of the Town of Essex currently lacks a specific definitive classification or definition for information technology data centers, creating a regulatory gap where such uses could potentially be permitted under generic industrial definitions in the interim. And whereas Section 38 of the Planning Act authorizes the council of a local municipality to pass an interim control bylaw to prohibit the use of land, buildings, or structures within the municipality for such period as is necessary to allow for the completion of a review or study of land use planning policies. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Essex direct administration to immediately prepare an interim control bylaw for council's consideration at its next regular meeting to place a temporary moratorium on the establishment, development, or permitting of any new information technology data centers within all land use zones in the Town of Essex. And further, be it resolved that this temporary pause mechanism remain in place for an initial period of 1 year, pending the findings and policy recommendations of the joint land use study initiated by the County of Essex, to ensure the long-term protection of the town's local agricultural economy, water systems, electrical grid capacity, and overall quality of life.
Thank you, Director Malin-Drucolo. Reports and announcements from council members. Councillor Verbeek.
Thanks through the mayor. I had a couple things going on this weekend. McGregor's going to be really busy with our Steam and Engine show. The parade on Saturday, and then come out to the event at the Steam and Engine Museum. Also, next door at Coan Park, it'll be our slow pitch fun tournament. We have 8 first responder teams already registered. There'll be food and music and raffles and fun. Of course, it's free entry. Come in and watch some great fun competitive ball and support the park. I also want to give a shout out to a McGregor family that was married 60 years ago. Deschamps. I wanted to wish them a happy 60th birthday. I'm not sure if the mayor's going to comment on that, or that's it. Just come to McGregor this weekend. It's happening.
And it was happening this past weekend too, because we had 211 people come to the kids' clothing swap, and it was really successful. And St. Paul's Church in Essex took the rest of the clothes for their clothing cupboard. And I want to thank again GFL for sponsoring the room rental, and their Pollard family for use of Unit 40 in Harrow for storage. Any other members of council have anything to say? Counselor Garen.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to share with the public their concerns with the Maidstone and Talbot intersection construction. And obviously, we understand the inconvenience it is. It's a very difficult area to do construction on because there's not a whole lot of other roads to get to without going much out of the way. But just want to remind the public that during the construction, I mean, town and council, we're hearing of all the complaints from the residents, and a lot of the complaints are valid, and I'm trying to do our best. It's only been 1 week with construction, so hopefully it'll get a little bit better. Hopefully we have a plan once the school opens. We're trying to make that intersection safe. It's definitely 100% needed, the work we're doing there on the intersection, and I believe it's valid that it's closed. I'd rather see it closed and get all the work done rather than open some days, close some days, and so on. But anyways, just wanted to let the public know that we hear the residents' complaints, and we know that it's an inconvenience, but just to stay patient with us.
Thank you, Counselor Garen. Any other members of council? So we did set up a section on our report of problems specifically for those complaints as well. So I do also want to honor Sue and Leo Deschamps, and they live on the concession 12 in McGregor. And we do have a lovely little 60-year anniversary, is no small feat. So on August 20th, 1966, two young people from McGregor made a promise to each other. Sue, born in 1949, and Leo, born in 1944, started a life together right here in the community that raised their family. Their entire lives have been woven into the fabric of McGregor in the greater town of Essex. They raised their family here, they worked here, and they showed up for their neighbors. Shelley, Cheryl, Tim, Tom, they taught us what it means to build a home, hard work, love, and laughter. 4 kids, a lifetime of memories, and a house was always full. In 1970, they took over the family garage from Leo's father. That wasn't just a business. It was where people in McGregor knew that they could get an honest day's work and a friendly conversation. And for many years, they also worked the land, farming a 25-acre farm, another way to put your hands into the community and help it grow. They are admired and they never left. Every season, every change in the town of Essex. They volunteered, they supported local teams, events, and families. They have many long life friends, and they show a commitment of what a steady example looks like to be an Essex citizen. So 60 years, they've built that garage, and we'd like to thank them for this anniversary and love and appreciation from their friends and family and from all of us at the town of Essex. And so if you want to order a certificate, you can order a certificate, and we'll bring we already have a certificate for them, but anybody else watching, we do certificates. All right, anything else from members of council? Looking for a bylaw for third and final reading, bylaw 2555 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the July 20th regular meeting of council. Be read third and finally passed August 10th. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councilor McGuire-Blaise, all in favor. That's carried. Bylaws that require first, second, third, final reading, bylaw 2559 to be a bylaw for the Union Water Joint System Board of Management to be read a first, second time, finally passed on August 10th. Director Malin-Djukolo, would you just in a couple sentences share with the public and council what this is so everybody is clear?
So through the chair, about a year or two ago, the Union Water Supply System changed their governance structure. And this is the final step to dissolving their board. So we had a chance to review the resolutions and sign off on them. So this is just allowing for the dissolution of the Board of Management.
Thank you. I wanted to ensure that was pointed out to everybody. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Bylaw 2558 being a bylaw imposing special annual drainage rates upon the land and respect money is borrowed under the Tile Drainage Act. Be read first, second, third time, finally passed on August 10th. Councillor Mady, Deputy Mayor Shepley, any questions? Councillor Mady.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Can I ask the clerk to give us the same kind of brief rundown on what this one is?
Director Rowe? If we could just have or CAO Jerusevich. Yeah, the Tile Drainage Act.
Through the chair. So the Tile Drainage Act permits the municipality to act as a intermediary lender And we charge a rate of interest, so it's charged at 6%. That's in accordance with the act. So farmers can come forward and install tile drainage on their properties, and we're just basically the flow through for it. And so this is all a separate act as well.
Thank you. It's something we don't see that often. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Bylaws require first, second reading. Bylaw 2557 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the August 10th regular council meeting be read a first, second, and provisionally adopted on August 10th. Moved by Councilor McGuire Blaze, Deputy Mayor Shepley, all in favor? That's carried. And at this,
We voted on it.
oh, okay. My apologies, council. I did not get a mover and a seconder for the Union Water motion. Councilor Guerin, Councilor Verbeek, and then we'll vote again to make it official. All in favor? Thank you. And at this point, a motion to adjourn our open session. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councilor Hammond, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, we have a